Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of Westerospective, where we bring you Game of Thrones, the old seasons and the new. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And after today's episode, Ron, we will have covered 50% of Game of Thrones. It's a little nuts.
I was going to say, it's a little crazy.
That's a lot of Game of Thrones, a lot of good stuff to talk about.
That's a lot of coverage that no one is paying attention to.
Yeah. What's our motto? Overpromise, underdeliver.
Yes.
Is that what we do? Yeah. Okay.
We should get like t-shirts or like a red hat that says that or something.
No, we're just getting Leto tattoos right across the fucking forehead.
It's just like tattooed onto the side of our arm.
No. One of us is getting one half of the quote, and the other person gets the other half, and then we're together. It's like the fusion dance. Together we become There Will Be Expletives. Okay. Today's episode, now that we have lost the entirety of the non-audience, we are talking Season 2, Episode 10, Valar Morghulis. Again, just a quick spoiler warning. This is a retrospective show of looking back at the early seasons, knowing what we know now. So there will be spoilers for the current stuff. Please be caught up, because we will just casually throw out Season 6 spoilers. So
we will wreck Game of Thrones for you.
Yeah, this is not a quick way. I was about to say this is not a quick way to get caught up. Nothing we do is ever quick. It's always 3 hours longer than it needs to be.
Yeah, our 35-minute show is usually about 50.
Yep. All right, let's get going. First thing I noticed is how much of a troll Benioff and Weiss are, because Dinklage's name is not at the beginning of the cast, even though he is the very first person they show.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, they've done that a few times throughout the history of the show, where they've trolled people via the cast list. So
like full Walking Dead style?
Full Walking Dead style, yeah. Because Dinklage is, after Sean Bean left the show, Dinklage has always been number one. This might be like the one episode where he was not listed with the cast in an episode that he was in. So I found that interesting. Which is weird too, because it's not like they bury the lead. The episode opens up and you see Dinklage, really early, so it's very strange.
Yeah, you're not going half the episode.
Does it open up with him? Isn't he the very first scene? Yeah. So it's like, why did you guys even bother? You trolled for like 2 minutes.
It's like you get a full screen shot of his eye, and then it switches to his point of view, and Pycelle is standing over him looking down.
Which was a cool little bit of editing when they're flipping the perspective around and everything. Yeah. I didn't really have too many notes in that first scene. Did you have anything?
I had a couple of things. One, I love the quote where the first thing he sees is Pycelle standing over him, and he yells for Pod, and he tells him to run and find Varys or Bronn and tell him that he's with Pycelle and he's very much alive.
Yeah. Now, one thing I did notice now that I'm thinking about it is Dinklage, but Pycelle's demeanor is very different in this episode.
Yes.
In this scene, he is very cold and a lot more calculated than he usually is.
Because now, all of a sudden, Tyrion finds himself with a lower rank than Pycelle. Whereas Pycelle always had to kind of dance around Tyrion because Joffrey was the only person more powerful than Tyrion at the time.
And to be honest, one of the reasons he has a power trip in this scene is because not only is he lower on the totem pole than Dinklage was earlier, before he has been stripped of all of his ranks, Pycelle is kind of under everyone, and he is always looked down on.
And not only that, Pycelle is also kind of like in charge of his care at the same time, and after everything that Tyrion's done to him. And can you imagine being Tyrion, leading the city against what was supposed to be one of the biggest sieges in its history, and winning, to wake up with the scar, the facial deformation that he's got? He's got no rank anymore. And he's been cast aside and thrown into these little tiny cramped quarters full of all of his stuff. They moved him out for him. He woke up and all his stuff's around him.
And he, for that cause, he was about to die. When he goes out leading that charge, he is fully committed to just die because he thinks there's no chance they have. He literally goes down with the ship, and he really gets he really gets nothing for it.
Yeah.
So you totally get all of his thinking at this point. Did you have anything else, or was that all of your notes?
That was pretty much all of my notes.
All right, the next scene is very important for the landscape of the show for future seasons, because this is when they have Tywin come in. He's officially remade Hand of the King. This is where they start to set up all of the Tyrell stuff. You have Finn Jones and Marjorie here. This is when they officially bring up the idea of her becoming Queen Marjorie instead of Sansa. Yes. Now, one of my first notes is when they start up this whole thing after Finn Jones brings it up in the throne room, and they start talking about it between everyone in the throne room. Joffrey is actually very faithful to his vows. He says in the throne room in front of everyone 2 or 3 times, I have to fulfill my word, which is very intriguing when you think about the parallels within this episode coming up, because Robb later on, no hesitation.
Yeah.
No hesitation.
At
Joffrey, all. In this episode, Joffrey is a better king than Robb is, because he is trying to actually, withhold his end of the deal. And it's not until his mom says otherwise that Pycelle says the High Septim has been consulted. Whether or not they actually were, it doesn't matter. And Joffrey, in this case, doesn't have as much to lose as Robb does. And he still at first is wanting to withhold his word. I never really put that together until this viewing.
Yeah, I've never really put much thought into it at the time. But yeah, it's interesting because this whole episode, we've talked before about how every episode seems to have a running theme with it. And this one is all about oaths, and whether you keep or break that oath. Because you think about it, Pycelle should be sworn to serve King's Landing, and instead he serves pretty much only himself. You've got Joffrey trying to keep his oaths, which is surprising. Later on, you've got Robb breaking an oath he made. Then later, you've got Brienne and Jaime going back and forth.
Yeah, you have Brienne going back and forth with him about she doesn't have an oath to the Stark. She has an oath to Lady Cat. One interesting one now that we just started talking about it right now that I realized too is Luwin has an entire arc where it is about his oaths to Theon, where he has an oath to Winterfell, not necessarily the person. So
yeah, there's a lot of opposites there too, because you got Robb and Joffrey, and then you got Luwin and Pycelle. Same kind of positions, but totally opposite directions.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
It's really within this season when they really got down.
Oh. Brienne and Jaime, she tried to save her king and failed, and he killed his king.
Within this season is really when they hit their stride as far as setting up each episode perfectly to where they have running themes, which ends up being, especially in the last couple of seasons since we started doing these commentaries, like it becomes one of the coolest things about the show is figuring out what the running theme is going to be.
Yeah, because sometimes it's in your face and sometimes it's subtle.
Sometimes you don't even realize until you rewatch the episode multiple times, like, just now realizing all the parallels. Other thing, too, is a lot of people are going to say Finn Jones is a bad actor because of Iron Fist. If you actually go back and watch this episode, I think the little bit of screen time Finn Jones has, he's really good in here.
Honestly, if you even pay close attention, which God help you if you did, to Iron Fist, I mean, you can tell that he's trying his damnedest. They just didn't give him anything to work with.
And they didn't give anyone any time to do anything correctly, but we have done an entire podcast about that. Yeah. But
no, it's not Finn Jones.
It's interesting that it's Loras who has to bring this up, the marriage. I mean, because he's setting up, Marjorie to, be handed off to Joffrey. The whole time, he's having to bring up the fact that the reason she is available is because the guy he was in love with and not her is dead. He has a lot of looks in his face where it's painful for him to say some of these things, and I think he does a really good job.
Yeah, he does really good in that. Did you also notice how Cersei was kind of acting like why didn't I think of this? And like the daggers she's shooting Sansa and stuff every time she looks at her and everything. When later, like Marjorie's at the bane of her existence.
Yeah, the whole thing was orchestrated and it blows up in their face really bad. And then Cersei makes everything blow up in their face. Yeah, she returns the favor in green. Now the other person who is really good in this scene is Sansa. Her expressions, as at first she's kind of like a deer in the headlights, and then she subtly, before she walks away, she's subtly showing kind of simultaneously like glimmers of hope that she might be able to get away, because once they end the kind of actual procession going on, and then she walks away, she's smiling. She can't wait, that she might have a chance to go home now. And then they have Littlefinger come in. Baelish goes to talk to her about how you're worse off now than you were. Yeah. And then he kind of corrects.
Joffrey's not the type to let go of his toys or whatever he says.
She is now not of any use to him, and bad things happen to things that are of no use to Joffrey. That's kind of his whole thing. I really liked his quote too, where he said, "Look around, we're all liars here, and each one of us is better than you."
Yep. Yeah, that was a really good quote. I don't have my note for the next scene. I don't remember where we jumped to.
Okay, the next one we go to is Varys and Roz, where he goes to recruit her away from Littlefinger.
I have always remembered this scene because I busted out laughing the first time she touches him, and then like
yeah. This is a really, really good scene where we all could also just put down all the dialogue because it's all Varys, and Varys' dialogue is never not great. Even when his dialogue isn't great, his performance makes it great.
Yes.
And it's a combination of both.
He knows how to deliver his lines. He's very good at that.
One of the quotes I wrote down from the scene that I didn't include was, "I thought you said you knew who I was." When she starts asking him, like, "How did you know this?" How did you know? I thought you said. Yeah. That was really all I had, because this doesn't really come to the forefront until the next season. Did you have anything?
No, I didn't even have the note. So.
Okay, good job. Okay, the next one is a good one, because the next scene is the Brienne and Jaime scene where they're on the road.
Oh my God! Everything Jaime says is quotable.
Everything he says is quotable. Like, their dynamic is just fantastic from the get-go. Like, it's almost like they're so good at being pissed off at each other, and he's so good at screwing with her that, like, it's almost like they've been acting together for years when they probably hadn't been really acting with each other hardly at all, because the way these episodes are filmed, they literally at this point could have been working together for like a day. Yeah. When you think about the confines of the show and how little screen time certain things get, that doesn't feel, that feels like there are more to it. Like, you and I have talked about that a few times.
Yeah.
But when they go up and they see the 3 tavern women hanging, and this whole thing progresses, like, it's one of the more intense scenes of the last few episodes. Like, the thing where the guy uses in 3 seconds, both of you say his name, and you're like, "Oh fuck!"
The look on Jaime's face, and he looks back at her like, "Well, now what's your plan?"
Yeah, and this is one of the very first scenes we have seen Brienne whoop some ass a couple of times, but Jaime's never really has never really gotten a chance.
Jaime's never really seen it, and this one is different because it's. This one's basically personal for Brienne this time. So, yeah, because, with how big she is and how she looks and everything, she's had to put up with crap her whole life. And then we gave 2 of them a quick death and all that. It just really got under her skin. So it was pretty much personal. And it showed, because those first 2 bastards.
No, those guys got it easy, because the last guy.
They didn't even know what hit them.
The last guy who gets impaled from the wrong place to be impaled out of all the places to be impaled.
Yeah.
And the directing and the cinematography is very, very good, because all you see...
Don't forget sound design.
Yeah, you don't see anything other than his reaction to it. and you hear it all, and what plays in your brain is so much more effective than anything they could have showed you. And then their conversation after this is because I think this is the first time he really grows to respect her.
Yeah.
Because at this point he's always just kind of seen her as a freak, I think, and at this point he really sees, how talented a fighter she is, how, she will stand up for herself and she won't take, like any shit.
I'm not even sure he thought she had any real ability being a woman.
Yeah,
and then those first two bastards, even the second guy didn't even see what hit them.
Yeah,
she was so fast.
He had to officially see it to actually believe it.
Yeah, but I think that fight was over in like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just done.
It was over in 5 seconds for the first two guys, and about 30 that guy never wants to experience again.
So the fight was over. I didn't say they were all dead.
Yeah.
And I did have the one quote because I laughed my ass off to it. Was they were pretending like he was like a thief and he had stolen that pig, and the guy was like, "You're Jaime Lannister." He's like, "Oh, I wish someone had told me that, or I wouldn't have stolen the pig."
Yeah, the dialogue is all great. And then it's one of the last things they establish is Jaime tells her, those were Starkmen you just killed. I don't serve the Starks, I serve Cat.
Yeah, and I think that scene kind of opens and closes with that line.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Because the reason they have strung them up and killed them is because they have signs saying I laid with lions. So basically they were would you imagine they were with just random soldiers in the Lannister army that were passing through? Is that kind of what the assumption is?
I kind of had the mindset of that Jaime had, where he said that they could have even just done something as simple as serving them in the tavern, maybe let them cop a feel or two, stuff like that is what he was saying. And that's all they did to get themselves killed.
It's an important scene too, to show that the Stark army are not all of these noble, great guys. Everyone in Game of Thrones is pretty much a shithead, especially in the grand scheme of all the guys populating the armies. It's not
there's not a hero. It's a whole bunch of villains fighting each other, to more or less.
Basically. And Sam and Gilly are like the only innocent, nice people in the whole fucking show. Okay, the next scene is the scene I alluded to earlier with Robb. Robb is having a conversation with Cat, to where he's like, "Fuck the phrase. Nothing bad can happen if we do that." Now, the interesting quote that I wrote down is because he starts to have a conversation with her about the context of what marriage means in Westeros. Basically, he wants to marry. Was it Talissa? Is that her name?
I believe so.
He wants to marry her because he is passionately in love with her, and then Kat goes to tell him, Ned and I were not in love at first. Ned and I had to build our relationship stone by stone over a very long time, and that is stronger. It lasts longer. And then when she said that, I was like, oh god, my heartstrings. Oh my god. Game of Thrones, you guys are such dicks. They were just like, there's so many throwaway lines that work as throwaway lines, but also work with so much subtext in retrospect.
Yeah.
This whole season is just throwaway lines full of subtext,
Yeah, I'd say the overall season theme was subtext. Yeah, no, I didn't write it down, but I did like Robb's, I think it's his final quote, when he said that he's only got one parent left and that one has no business telling him about or warning him about being reckless or something.
Yeah, alluding to her letting Jaime go.
Yeah.
On a whim.
And when he was leaving the tent and you see the two soldiers outside the tent, I turned to my wife and I was like, being one of those two bastards, would you not be literally between a rock and a hard place? Because on the one hand, it's Lady Cat that you're imprisoning, and if you do anything with that, you have to answer to Robb, King of the North. Like, everything's
Yeah.
conflicting.
The two guys outside, it would be Ron and Geoff.
Yeah.
No,
Except probably more along the lines of the two soldiers from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. Now, my last note with that scene is something that came to my mind when I was watching it. Is it's interesting in the confines of the first 3 seasons. The first season, Ned dies because he stands by his word and he dies with honor. Robb dies because he did basically the exact opposite.
Yep.
You know, Ned literally to his last breath, you know, is honor bound, you know. And then at the exact, like, Robb dates a chick for like what feels like 3 days. He's like, fuck the phrase. And he literally gets 3 generations almost killed of his family because of one bad decision. It's like the thing that I wrote down is it's like the Starks are damned if they do and damned if they don't for the
That's
first
what I was just thinking.
For the first few seasons of this show. They are so cursed that it's like, what the fuck do you do? You know?
Yeah.
Every time they do something right, they pay for it. Every time they do something wrong, they sure as hell pay for it. So it's one of those things. Like literally for the first, not until season 6 did they really win anything. Like,
yeah,
75% of the way through the show, since it will have 8 seasons, you go 75% of the way through before the good guys win anything. Like, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's the Starks have it rough, which I think is one of the things that make them a lot of people's favorites.
They're the underdog, the underwolf.
They're the underdog, yeah, the underwolf.
And it's one of the things too. It makes it so much more satisfying to see them win when you don't see the good guys win for a very, very long time. Like that's one of my all-time favorite scenes ever is when they rehang the Stark banners back in Winterfell. You're just like, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Okay, did you have any more notes with that portion?
No, but I have one big one in the next scene.
You might have the same one that I do. The next scene is with Stannis and Melisandre, and my first note is when she tells him, I've been fighting far longer than you. Was that your note?
Nope.
Because the reason I included that is a gigantic hint to her actually being old. Yeah. And I believe that's one of the very first times, if not the first time, they allude to that. I actually, now that I'm looking down my list, there's another one. What was your notes?
It completely blew my mind when she told him all the terrible shit that he's going to do that we know he does in the future.
You know, you will betray your family. Is that
that was the quote that I have written down.
Okay, yeah, those were the 2 that I included.
Because my brain exploded and I have to sit there and try to contain it because my wife does not know what's coming. So, but I was like, I had no memory of her saying that, and everything that she says comes true.
You know what's interesting too is
they laid it out for you.
You know what's very interesting to me is when you think of how important Jon Snow ends up being to the overall plot right now. The Lord of Light isn't exactly incorrect. Yeah. Because all of the motivations that she gets to help Stannis, it gets her to that point to where she can save Jon, where she can save a Targaryen.
Yeah.
It's, it's one of those things where Stannis was always meant to, you can kind of take it as Stannis was always meant to do the awful shit that he did. And Melisandre was always meant to help him do all of that horrible shit to get her to that point.
In order to bring her to Jon.
Yeah. That scene when he's strangling her is fucking intense too.
Yeah, it
is. Because she tells him, you're freaking out over one lost battle. Not because she doesn't fully understand his whole war effort pretty much went up in smoke, went up in green fucking smoke. Like, because he never recovers from that. That was his numbers was his one thing he had.
Yeah, and he no longer has that. That is all gone.
Any other notes for that portion?
Nope. No, that was the only one that I wrote down. I just I couldn't believe what I was hearing when she was saying that to Stannis.
Yeah. There wasn't even subtext. It was just text.
They laid out the fucking storyboard for you.
Yep. All right. The next one is the Theon scene. And first note, Alfie Allen is fucking awesome in this whole episode.
Yes, he is.
Like he is fan-freaking-tastic. He might have the best performance in the episode to me.
It's pretty strong.
And every time he mentions the guy blowing the horn, I busted out laughing, dude. He's like his I didn't write it down, but his quote where he's just like, I don't care how many arrows they feather me with. I don't care how many spears they run through me. Before I fall, I will kill that horn blowing cunt. Now, what's funny is like there's a lot of funny dialogue that is purposefully funny here, but there's also a lot of, Theon has done awful things in this season, but when he starts to, give more hindsight into his childhood, it was a really fucked up situation where yes, he's an asshole for what he's done now, but you can kind of feel for that kid growing up.
That's the thing about this show. There's not necessarily anyone that's right or wrong in all the conflicts. You can see it from both sides usually,
except for Ramsay.
Except for Ramsay.
Ramsay and Joffrey are really the only characters which are pure chaotic evil. Everyone else is shades of gray for the most part.
And for the time period that this is supposed to be set in, Ramsay and Joffrey are not over the top characters either. That's the sad thing.
Google any medieval torture device, and you will understand that they are not over the top. People were genuinely fucked up. People still are genuinely fucked up, but just YouTube any videos about like those top 5 crazy torture devices, and you're like, good God.
Yeah. People
were fucking nuts. Now, the scene continues on to end up being one of my favorite moments of the entire series is in what we're about to talk about. Mine too, because it's one of those things where the previous episode, Blackwater, Tyrion has this whole badass speech, and he goes outside. They follow the charge. Up until he himself gets injured, it plays out, like a fantasy movie. Like it doesn't subvert expectations. Cut ahead to this episode, and he is 95% of the way done with his speech. They are about to run outside and charge into glorious battle and death, and then he gets bonked on the head. And you're just like, and then the dude's quote was like, "What's a good speech? I don't want to interrupt."
That's the one I wrote down. That's one of my absolute favorite, probably quotes in the entire show. Because this show is not known for its humor, but when it has it, it's really funny.
It's really good. But like the music starts to ratchet up. Like it is boom, we're doing it. He gets bonked on the head, all the music stops, and then it's just humor, and then and it's kind of a funny scene, and then fucking Lewin gets stabbed, and I always really liked that character. I did too. It's a rough way to go to where you just slowly. I appreciate too. Here he gets stabbed in the stomach, and he doesn't immediately fucking die. That is one of my. Remind me to add this to my pet peeves list when we do that VOD topic, because I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
When someone gets shot and or stabbed in the stomach, and they're like, ugh. Because anyone who can fucking go to WebMD knows you don't fucking immediately die from a stomach wound. Like, I don't know, that always irritates me. But it's very accurate here because he ends up surviving for quite a while, and then we'll get back to his scene later.
He even changed his location,
and it's very poetic where he ends up too.
Yeah,
which is very devastating. The next episode, or the next scene, I should say, goes back to Tyrion. This is where he's having the conversation with Varys that we talked about, I think, a couple of episodes ago, if not last week, where Varys goes in to tell him, basically he kind of gives him the rundown of where he stands right now. This is where he reveals to him that it wasn't an accident that he got attacked the way he did. It was actually Cersei actively trying to kill him, because it is an absolute perfect way for Cersei and Tywin. Tywin could potentially be. I don't remember if they ever say whether he was involved in it or not. But if Tyrion goes out in a blaze of glory at the Blackwater Bay, it is a perfect way for both of them to get rid of Tyrion, because Cersei just doesn't like Tyrion, and Tywin only cares about their family name.
I feel like if Tywin was involved with it, the guy would have succeeded.
Well, you get what I'm saying, though, because Tywin would profit a lot, too, because all he cares about is the family name. If Tyrion goes out in a blaze of glory at the Blackwater Bay defending the city, he would have actually gone down in the record books if he had died, because that furthers the Lannister name, not Tyrion himself, if that makes sense. Like,
no, I get you.
Yeah.
But it's just, if I'm a guy given a job by Tywin, I'm going to die carrying out that job because I don't want to report back to Tywin.
But that's the thing. It's interesting, too. The only reason he survives that blow is because he's a dwarf. The guy's not used to swinging at someone of his stature.
Right.
So the guy might not necessarily have...
And the guy that lost the bottom half of his fucking leg in that same scene is not used to looking out for a dwarf.
Absolutely.
That's me. Just standing there minding my own business, and then boom, no leg.
You got dinklaged.
Right at the knee.
Let's see. He also confirms to Tyrion Bronn has been removed from the Gold Cloaks. That was like the first fucking thing they did.
And the Hillsman.
Every decision that Tyrion ever made is just like boom, gone.
Yeah.
Shae walks in. And before Varys leaves, he says, "The king won't give you any honors, the histories won't mention you, but we will not forget." I've always loved that, because we've often been talking about their bromance, and Varys has always respected Tyrion's intellect, but now he respects him as a man, I think.
Yeah.
Now, here's an interesting point. Did you have anything to talk about with the Varys portion before we talk about?
I was going to say, I think it also helps Varys help Tyrion later with Khaleesi, because Varys always says that everything he does is for the good of the realm, and later he believes Khaleesi is the best thing that can happen, right? I think that while he's always respected Tyrion, he's never really thought of him as someone that can help protect the realm. Until that,
it was a very because Tyrion has always been incredibly smart, but it could be seen as selfish, and then that was a very selfless act.
It was a very selfless act, and he not only proved that he could handle a major city like King's Landing in a time of peace, he handled it in a time of war also.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the only reason that Varys is taking him to Khaleesi later is
because of Blackwater. I would agree. Yeah. Now, I want to talk about this point too. Shae comes in, and yeah, right. Okay, I think this might be. There's no way to know. There's no way, because I'm sure the books are different too, and you could break it down a million ways, and we have. But I think this might be, to me, the breaking point to where she 100% turns away from Tyrion in the long run because of this. So I think when she's asking him to leave and leave with her, I think she's being heartfelt in this. I think she genuinely wants to just get away. I think at this point she genuinely, maybe she didn't organically fall for him. Maybe she from the get-go was always working for Tywin, but I think over time she eventually did grow to like him. But when he rejects her, and it's interesting because Varys respects him for his selfless act at Blackwater, I think Shae loses respect for him because he kind of chooses the game over Shae, because he tells her, these bad people are what I am. I love outsmarting them and outthinking them and all of that. He selfishly can't tear himself away from, because he enjoys the debauchery so much that he chooses these awful people over his love for her. And I think that could potentially be seen as the breaking point for her.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those things that the way it's written and the way it's performed, we'll never know. But
there's a million different interpretations, but that is something that came into my mind when I was watching it this time.
That's interesting. I almost wonder if the only reason she would have come around to him at all is Blackwater also. Like she was playing him all the way up to that point. And then after seeing what he can do, what he's capable of, and how he's thanked for it, she can't help but be heartfelt in that moment.
But when you think about it, like when you see the look on her face when he tells her that, she looks devastated. It looks legit. It doesn't look like she's faking. At least it didn't to me. But there's no correct answer to that. It's all up to interpretation. That was just something that I wanted to bring up. Did you have anything to add on the Shay section?
Nope. Other than fucking Shay.
The next scene is Robb and Talissa's wedding. And Robb again.
Oh, damn it, Robb.
When you rewatch this with the red wedding, where that's going to happen, they really set that shit up, like even more than you think.
Yeah.
Like just all of the times where he's talking up like his shit doesn't stink, basically. And all of his decisions that he makes, you're just like, dude,
I'm invincible.
Yeah, there wasn't really much else to add unless you had anything.
Nope.
Fucking Robb.
Fucking Robb.
Okay, now we're getting to some of the Khaleesi stuff. So Khaleesi is with Jorah and her Dothraki bro. I never can remember that guy's name. Bro. Yeah. Doth Red Shirt, we'll call him. Now, this is cool. First of all, I've always really liked the scene where she gets trapped inside the thing because she's running in a circle around the what is it, the House of the Undying? Is that what they call it?
I believe so.
Yeah, the place, whatever it is. When she's running around and she just barely gets out of frame, and then Jorah runs around and runs into Doth Red Shirt. I've always really liked that scene.
Yeah. Yeah, the Khaleesi shit later. But yeah, that seems always really cool. Like you don't even know what the fuck happened to her. She don't even really know what the fuck. Just and it cuts to her. You can hear Jorah outside shouting Khaleesi, and she's just kind of for a half second like, "Hey."
Now, one of the quotes she says in this portion was interesting to me that I wanted to write down. First of all, it's just a badass quote, but there's a lot of subtext behind it as far as the books are concerned, because she screams out to Pyat Pri that, are you afraid of a little girl?
Yes. Now,
in the show, the very beginning of the show, she's roughly 17. At the very beginning of the books, she's 13. This is roughly a year, give or take, into the storyline. So in the show, she's like 18-ish.
Yeah.
But when you think about it in the context of all of the shit Khaleesi does, if you think about it in the book's perspective, she does all of her epic shit when she's like 14. You're like, good God, that is one badass 14-year-old little girl, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's always one of the aspects, because it makes sense why they have to update it. They have to make her a little bit older to make the show work. Especially because of the way she is sold into marriage. That would not fly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't necessarily think it's made to make the show work. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah, it's made to make the show basically politically correct enough to work.
Yes.
But just from the context of the book, I always found that aspect of her character, because it makes her even more badass. You know, she's not even fucking 16, and she conquers half of a continent, and then has like 5 different armies and 3. It's just
sure puts Jorah in a different light.
You're not wrong. I hadn't thought about that aspect. The next scene we go to is Arya and Jaqen. This is where you get your first glimpse of him actually being able to change his face, which is Well, I was always so worried we would never see the Jaqen actor again because it would have been so easy for them to change actors that I was
The
always
easiest one to recast. They never did recast.
They didn't recast the guy who can change his face, but god damn it, we're having 35-year-old Rickon run across that field
In a straight line.
I think we referenced that at least once an episode. I guess it's like a running, like, take a drink when we reference the Reckoning, I guess.
As I said, the Reckoning wouldn't happen if he would just serpentine.
Yeah, that's because he's supposed to be 7 and not 35, so that is their fault. Let's see. Valar Morghulis. I think this is the first time they say Valar Morghulis. One of the buzz.
He gives her the coin and
tells
take
her to any man in Bravo, say the words, and you'll be taken to. Interesting. They don't ever say the House of Black and White. I don't think that's ever said until she actually gets over there.
Yeah, I don't think he mentions it.
All right. Anything to add with that?
No.
All right, we need to speed these along a little bit. Running out of time. We go back to Bran, Rickon, Hodor, and Osha as they're kind of creeping out and checking out Winterfell as it's been abandoned by everyone. And then they go out, and then they find that Luwin has gone out to the God's Tree to die, basically. And this scene is rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I like him. Everybody really liked him.
That actor was so good.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
do you remember him in Doctor Who?
Which episode? Which episode is he in? Or episode?
He is the one that is the Lord President that Peter Capaldi kicks off the planet.
Of the Gallifrey dudes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
that guy's a great actor because he is the polar opposite. His
job there is to be a total dick, and you're supposed to hate him, and he totally pulls it off. And then here he's completely lovable.
Yeah, here he's like
he's got the entire range of the spectrum.
Here he's like their awesome Uncle Maester. You know, like he probably like I love the line too where he says, you know, like I brought both of you into this world type of thing. You know, he probably spent more time with all of them than Ned did. He probably. He was, you know, they were basically, even in Theon too, like the dynamic between his father-son relationship with all the Stark kids, including Theon, is very poignant, I think, in this episode.
Yeah.
And then the scene when they leave and you just see Winterfell burning and the billowing pillars of smoke and everything, like Winterfell doesn't return to form for 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And like one of the first places you ever see in the show, you know, that kind of awestrucks you at all, awestrikes you, whatever, is Winterfell. So to see it burning as they're leaving, you're just kind of like, what?
And it's always peaceful scenes with the family, like they're having fun with archery practice, and then
not a care in the world.
Cut ahead, 17 or 18 episodes, and it's on fire, literally.
It all went to hell, yeah.
The next scene is one of my all-time favorite scenes from the show. This is when Khaleesi is basically going through kind of like the quote-unquote dream/future ? Sequences. Her walking into the throne room with the snow.
Yes.
After we are getting so close to that now with season 7, gives me like goosebumps almost, because when she walks in and you see the throne room with the top gone while the snow is falling, you're just like, oh, I want it now, because I think is actually going to end up looking like that. I think this is the future she's actually seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's interesting is she's walking through the throne room while the snow is pouring down. In the very next dream/future sequence they transition to isn't her seeing Call. The very next one they show is her at the wall.
Yep.
Which to me, the way I took it rewatching it this time, is that shows the progression of the last 2 seasons. I think the second to last season is her descending upon King's Landing, her getting the throne, and then the final season is her defending it by going to the wall. And the last 6 episodes could be nothing but dragon v zombie action, and I think we need to stop this recording. So I can go and consult the doctor. Because good God, has that how? So that's how you take it too?
That's how I take it. Yeah, and I also take the vision with the call as she's moving on. Because basically, doesn't he basically talk about how she could like join them more or less, and she leaves them, she walks away from them.
Basically, because she isn't ever not aware that this isn't real.
Yeah.
The thing with Call, because she's talking to Call, and he starts saying, if it is a dream, who cares? Type of thing. We're together, our son's here, we're happy. If it's not real, who cares? Because perception's reality. If we're happy, who gives a shit if it's not real? Type of thing. And I wanted to just one more time, since it's probably the last time we'll get to talk about him for a very long time, if ever again, given kind of the confines of what we talk about in these episodes. When you think about just how much screen time Jason Momoa has in that role, and for this moment to hit you in the heartstrings as devastatingly like well done as it is, all their dialogue back and forth, you feel so invested in their relationship. He is probably on screen for 30 to 35 minutes altogether when you really break it down.
He manages to do it all speaking a made-up language.
So he's on screen for at the very most, what would you say, 40 minutes maybe?
At the very most.
40 minutes of screen time in a different language outside of like when he ends up saying like 2 or 3 words that he's learned from her. And you feel so emotionally invested in them. Bravo to their writers, but mainly bravo to Momoa.
In the Justice League trailer, he's like one of the most likable parts of the whole thing.
And he's, already.
Like, I already like Aquaman, and he was in that for like 2 seconds, 3 seconds.
Yeah, he says like 7 words, and he's already like the coolest Justice League member other than Gal Gadot,
Unite the 7. It was just 7 words in the trailer. That's what it meant.
Yeah.
I get it.
I love Jason Momoa so much, and I don't think most people understand how good he truly is.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, he is an outstanding actor.
All right. So it's interesting too, when you break down the parallels within the episode, Khaleesi at this stage could take personal benefit. She could stay with her family, and she rejects personal gain. And what she's able to do, she's able to save the dragon, she's able to keep on kicking, Robb does the polar opposite. Within a season, his whole family is gone.
With Khaleesi, though, how do you define personal gain?
The thing is, the dragons are her children because they're surrogates. That's all she has. That's all she really has left in the wake of her husband dying and her baby really never happening. Her ultimate thing that she always wanted, because she resorts to black magic to try to save him. Yeah, that's really, she's going after the Iron Throne because she feels like she kind of has to. Eventually, she wants it because she ends up having a power trip. Basically, at this stage, she is purely seeking it because of her name's sake. What she really wants more than anything, and you can see it on her face, is to stay in that tent. But she rejects what she truly wants to go back to reality, to do what she feels is right, while Robb could not care less that he's breaking his vows. He seeks personal gain. Within a season, his whole family's gone. It's just another one of those things. Their parallels are very, very intriguing to break down. She goes back and messed with the wrong 14-year-old bitch. Which, here's the thing. It's cool that you're a warlock and your magic powers are kicking now. Like, I don't think I would have gone after the chick who literally walked out of a fire pit and has 3 dragons. That is the last person I would have fucked with. So he kind of gets what has coming to him. For that early on in their budget, I actually thought the dragons looked pretty good too.
Yeah. The dragons look pretty good, and the little tiny chains were adorable.
Yeah. Those little adorable murder machines. So
my wife laughed pretty hard when after the guy just fully ignites and he's like on the ground. I was like, bro, that's dragon's fire. Stop, drop, and roll ain't gonna help.
Yep.
And she busted out laughing at that.
So she sets him on fire. Now they cut to Snow and Ygritte. This is when Qhorin Halfhand kind of sacrifices himself to give Jon a chance.
Yeah.
I do kind of like the Wildlings, though, how they start fighting, and then the Lord of Bones is just like, fuck it, let them fight. We're bored. We'll watch them kill each other.
I never noticed that Ygritte basically has a full understanding of what Halfhand just did. Did you notice that?
What do you mean?
It almost seemed to me like, Halfhand's basically doing what he's doing to save Jon's life. And that's basically how she saw it. That's the feeling I got from her demeanor and the way that she says that he's tell Mance Rayder that he's the one that killed Halfhand.
You see, I just don't know, because they end up playing it in the long run how hurt she is by the betrayal, that I don't think she ever really has an inclination of him. I don't know. Their relationship is kind of like Shae's and Tyrion's, where it's kind of interesting to think about, because I didn't explicitly take it that way. I could see it going that way, but their relationship as far as the betrayals and everything in the long run are so kind of vague as far as when she ends up fully I mean, obviously she's about to fucking kill him before she gets killed. I just, with that, I really don't know what to think. I would like to revisit it the further we get on, though, with their storyline, because I don't 100% know how I take their storyline at that moment. Now, is this the first person Jon's ever killed?
That is what I was thinking when I saw the scene.
Because we've seen him kill the White Walker, but I don't think we've ever seen him kill a person that's actually still alive.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that's his first kill.
It's kind of fucked up. The first person he ever kills in the Night's Watch is a Night's Watchman.
Yeah.
Not just a Night's Watchman, like one of the most legendary ones ever, because like you pointed out, she tells the other dude, like, this is the one who killed Qhorin Halfhand,
Yeah, and they cut him loose, like they cut his hands free and stuff after that.
He is a name.
Yeah.
And now it's teased.
He's still a prisoner, but he's basically a celebrity at that point. And
they tease Mance Rayder's camp. That's really important for the next season, and then really for the next couple of seasons, Mance Rayder is very important for the confines of the show. It has leads up to one of my favorite Snow moments when Snow shoots him in the fire. All-time favorite Snow moment. Love it. Anything else to add with the Snow and Ygritte stuff?
No.
All right. We go back to one of the best Khaleesi scenes is when she goes back and her and Jorah are there to basically tell Daxos and what's-her-face to go fuck themselves.
Yes.
I love that scene when Daxos is about to stand up and then Jorah just flips his sword around and gives him that dirty look. You're just like, I love it.
Yes.
So and I like it too, how they reveal that the vault's empty, and then she locks him in, and her handmaiden, I forget what the character's name is, but the girl who betrayed her, but Khaleesi tells Daxos and her, thank you for teaching me this lesson, because this is the first episode where the Khaleesi we know and love really comes to fruition.
Yeah.
Because she really gets into that mindset, like, I can do this. I just have to be careful about who I trust. And basically, and from this point on, she trusts absolutely no one.
Pretty much.
Especially when Jorah is revealed to have betrayed her. She can't trust anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if you can't trust Jorah, really, who can you trust?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, I've always... Is that the first time that she gets kind of like metal-sounding music as the vault door is like closing?
I could see that. It's not as metal as when she's sacking the city.
Yeah.
Because that is like, you hear that music and then those dragons clearing out those towers in the background, and you want to just go get in a bar fight. You're just like, I'm good to go. Let's fucking do it.
Yeah, that was pretty much the Khaleesi that we know and love and people talk about. In that
Like,
moment, that's the first time we've seen her.
That is the birth of Khaleesi, like metal as fuck Khaleesi.
Yeah.
I also like to how in an earlier episode they have the joke about the Dothraki stealing the gold cups and everything at the party, and what they end up doing is stealing all the gold in the city to fund the army.
Yeah.
Anything else to add with Khaleesi stuff?
Nope.
The last thing I will say, I am so excited for next season because it's all the metal Khaleesi stuff and it's so good. So good. And the episode ends with Sam and the White Walkers.
This has always stood out in my mind. This is one of the top handful scenes that always stands out to me whenever I think about Game of Thrones.
Why do they let him live? I've always been kind of curious. Is he such a non-threat that they don't even feel like it's worth their time? I guess. Because that's the lieutenant.
Yeah.
That's one of the lieutenants. It's not one of the mindless ones. He makes a conscious decision to just bail. Don't even he did not even worth. I guess the only thing you could take away is that he's not worth their time.
That's kind of the impression I've always gotten from it. I don't know if there's anything in the book that we're not getting, but
which also I guess that is important too, because him consciously just walking away and leaving him shows that they have consciousness. They're not just zombies. So I guess that's the takeaway, I guess.
Yeah.
When you really think about it, but yeah, that's season 2. Did you any other final thoughts before we move on? I will just say I think this season is. I've always kind of looked back at this season outside of Blackwater as being one of the, if not the kind of slowest seasons, but there's a lot of good stuff. This is a very important season.
It's a very important season. It is slower than some of the others, but I don't by any means consider it slow at the same time because there's a lot happening.
I think it's really well done because there's a whole lot of setup. But it doesn't really feel like setup when you're watching it.
It doesn't.
Was it season 5?
Setup, but without this season, you don't have all the different threads that we have later.
I think it actually does a lot better job of being set up and not feeling like setup than was it season 5? Was that the one where it was all of the first half of the books and it was kind of all set up?
I believe so.
I believe it was season 5. I would say season 5 is probably the worst season. Now, quote unquote worst. I'm saying it as the worst season. It's maybe an 8 out of 10, and that's the absolute worst the show has ever gotten. God forbid they have an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
So and
then you have Elias to be very offended.
Yeah.
As they light their cigarettes with $100 bills.
Right. Did you see how many views that season 7 trailer has already? It's already up to 10 million views in 8 hours.
Is it really?
It's something redonkulous.
Is it going to be that Beauty and the Beast, you think?
It was number 1 on trending within 10 seconds. It's just insane. All right, guys. This has been season 2. We'll be back hopefully next week for season 3. Always been one of my favorites because I think I believe it's season 3 and season 4 that are the third book, and a lot of the storylines of the third book have always been my favorite because just a lot of good stuff to come. If you want to check us out more, please like and subscribe. We have all of our content on the YouTube channel, all of our podcasts, commentaries, let's plays. We have, like we referred to earlier, if you want to get prepped for season 7 of Game of Thrones, check out our season 6 of Tonight's Watch. We have all of the most recent season covered for you. Facebook and Twitter links in the description, and if you know anyone else that might also like our content, we really appreciate you sharing us out. For this night and all the nights to come, this has been season 2. I'm Jeff.
I'm Ron, and this season has ended.